the images of the universe videos represent an effort, by the author, to understand the observer's influence on physical reality. It is easy to see that our memory depends on the continuous flow of information which is delivered to us by light and cosmic radiation from some mysterious place in the universe, which this memory can only access indirectly. We cannot see the particles that form the material bodies directly. For this, they must be illuminated first. According to Heisenberg, light disturbs the particle in an unavoidable way, generating uncertainty in its position or speed. Another physicist, Iceberg, reminds us that the uncertainty principle is directly linked to the quantization of light, a process that would not require measurable time. In short, things only exist when they can be remembered, or after the quantized light has spread near to us. Information is being collected and stored in our brain throughout life. When you try to understand an event that happens around you, you need to compare it to the patterns previously stored in your memory. This consultation takes time, and, as everything indicates, a particle would have a timeless nature, or would only exist in its stationary state, in which it radiates nothing. So, because you depend on the continuous scattering of light, and, therefore, on your memory, you are virtually banished from physical reality, assuming a position at the center of the observable universe. The subatomic universe, now, stands outside, although it is unlikely that the real universe will have sides. When I try to put myself in the position of those who watch my videos, I imagine that many doubts about the topics covered should bother you. Thus, I will ask some questions that I would ask myself if I were in the viewer's place.
Why, in several videos of images of the universe, do you suggest that time would be contained in the observer himself, not existing outside of him?
Setting the time is not an easy task. In the book Confessions, on page 120, St. Augustine tells us, "What, then, is time? If nobody asks me, I know. But if I want to explain to those who ask, I don't know anymore." On the concepts of the future and the past, he writes, "How then can these two times exist, the past and the future, if the past no longer exists, and the future has not yet arrived?" To bring the philosophical discussion to our physical reality, I use the concept of the future light cone of events. An electron, or all stars in a distant galaxy, has a cone of this type, whose main characteristic is to retain light and time. For example, if the sun were to go out at this point, we would not be able to see the resulting darkness directly and instantly. Information about the event would travel on the back of so-called gravity waves, which move in space at the limited speed of light. For those who observe from Earth, the time of 8 minutes does not exist in practice. Darkness would manifest itself instantly, and, once frozen, the observer would not have time to think about what had happened. The act of measuring the position of the sun in space with the help of light, as well as using its limited speed to measure the time of its displacement, is an indirect resource of assessment and extrapolation of concepts. All the methods thus used are appendages of our memory. you know that the pixels that make up the image on a TV are intentionally organized to trick your brain. Anyway, you notice that, if the future does not exist, the idea that time would be contained in ourselves becomes perfectly justified, whether virtual or not. Without knowing what happens in our future, which has not yet happened, the 0 point of time migrates from the position of the Sun and other stars to our position on Earth. It is there that time begins to count. The consequence is the emergence of the following paradox. Both the Earth and the Sun are in the present, as we know. As you see the Sun 8 minutes late, the Sun's present is relatively in your future. To see the Sun instantly, and, therefore, in the present, you would need to go back in time, or take a position in the past. At this point, you no longer see the Sun directly, as it has been replaced by its image. This paradox seems to be linked only to your memory, as your physical body is still in the present. In any case, the movement of time is always towards the future, which, in the final analysis, is confused with the present. That is, the future would result from looking at the present of the universe, as if we were in the past. Returning to St. Augustine's observation, we see that the past no longer exists, and the future has not yet arrived. The present, in turn, is an ephemeral moment, which is always slipping through our fingers. If you could remain in the present, as an isolated moment, you could not have a memory. Your memory, in turn, is forced to show you the universe frame by frame, in the form of isolated snapshots, as if the space were flat, or two-dimensional. I mean, for you to glimpse the universe, you would have to be expelled from its present moment. Despite not being aware of it, you would have been thrown back in time, looking at the universe as if you were in the past. If the universe were compared to a beating heart, you would have no references to see the whole process of pumping blood. What you can see, instantly, would be an isolated moment of the beat. Normally, physicists compare the behavior of space with that of a rubber strip that stretches and contracts in a complementary way with the time needed to do so. The present would represent a state of rest for the rubber band, an eternal moment that could not be apprehended directly by our memory. The present moment of the universe would be equivalent to the phase of the elastic, in which it was at rest, neither stretched nor contracted. For the observer's memory to act continuously, this rubber band would have to be out of its resting state. Thus, the elastic could be conceived as being in its stretching or contraction phase, with the two being excluded by the resting phase. In real time, space could never be caught in isolation in its resting position, as this phase would be equivalent to the disappearance of the curvature of space, which would injure the uncertainty principle. Time, under these conditions, would cease to exist or could not be directly measured, which implies that this type of fictional universe would be static and timeless. As can be seen, the existence of a static universe could only be conceived by someone who depended on his memory, whose functionality would be structured over time, acting as if time were the third dimension of space.